Got the best coaches in the game, we really ain't playing. We regroup up in the Slack chat where the coaches debrief. We be piecing these puzzles, occupy the chunk of the pie. Ain't no lie when we hit the block, helmets casket is top. You be seeing helmet after helmet, helmet after helmet. First place, second place, fifth place, eighth place, 12th place, 15, 16, 20. So many helmets, you got blurred vision, we got too many. Get your tech. Oh man, shit. They got us fucked up. Army, recruit. We pledge always to have that edge. We don't fire warning shots. Competition just dropped. We locked and loaded before lock. Whatever the time, yeah. Do you even correlate?
Being the best requires a willingness to outwork your competition. There's always someone smarter, faster, sharper, more naturally gifted to come around.
All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another DFS Army Kill Shot MMA Breakdown podcast, where we take a look at the week's UFC card from a betting and fantasy perspective. As always, I got the dream team with me from Best Fight Picks, Dan Levi. What's up, my man?
What up, what up?
All right, feeling good. And the sleeveless one himself, not showing the 17-inch guns today because word on the street is scaring the children away from the show. Got to cover those up, bro. Yeah. It's a dangerous weapon. BigMarley.
Practicing safety here lately, but coming off a good card, ready to make it two. Yeah, I'll save the sleeveless for the pay-per-view, I guess.
That's what it is, man. You can't just bust that out every time or people get used to it and then they don't appreciate it.
Exactly.
So we're coming off a pretty interesting card where I have to say, the names weren't that sexy going in, but the fights were pretty sexy. A lot of finishes, a lot of excitement. I think we learned some things about my boy Rodolfo Vieira. Went from scared to get hit to scared to gas out, but still got that win. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I told you Rodolfo Vieira was going to make some adjustments, man. I just never thought those adjustments were going to be coming out there, popping a jab, getting finishes later on in the fight. He didn't even shoot the entire first round, so pretty interesting. So let's see.
Scared to gas out, my man. That's what that was.
I mean, he whooped that dude's ass, firstly, and he finished him. But, yeah, and then the main event, Islam Makhachev moves into the top five. And I think Thiago Moises will be back as well. I wouldn't write him off in future appearances. So, yeah, it was a fun card.
BigMarley, if I held it against Thiago Moises for losing to Makhachev, I think pretty much everybody would suck if that was the case. Like, there aren't too many human beings that are going to beat Islam Makhachev in a fist fight.
Yeah, could be a champ soon.
It could happen. It could. Listen, that's a tough division, though. Killers everywhere you turn. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes for him. But yeah, I mean, he solidified his spot. And one of the things I said going into that fight was like, I didn't see any path at all. It was one of those rare situations where there was just no path for Thiago to get that win. It's just, how does he get it? Not going to outstrike this guy. He's not going to outgrapple him. He was just had no path. And unfortunately, the bettors figured that out. So it didn't make a very exciting bet at minus 700. But nonetheless, we've got another card. So that was a good one. That was exciting. And I think we have a lot of potential exciting fights on this card. Some head scratchers as well, guys. And I think this first fight of the night, it falls in the head scratcher category for me, where we've got Hannah Goldie taking on Diana Balbita. And I mean, I'm going to read off. This is a pick'em fight, minus 115, minus 105. We got minus 280. Fight goes to decision here. And Dan, how are these two women in the UFC? Like, why them and not someone else? Why? Well, it seems unfair.
It's not unfair at all. Go look at Diana Balbita's Twitter real quick and come back to me. Go look at Hannah Goldie. Go look at Hannah Goldie's Twitter real quick and get back to me.
You're saying this is a Sun Tzu special where sometimes we're fans of things other than the fighting skill?
I mean, listen, there's a few. You got to quote Floyd Mayweather. I mean, certain things will never go out of style, and that's just the bottom line. You can read on to what those certain things are, but listen, Diana Balbita and Hannah Goldie, like, this is going to be. It might not be the highest level fight, but it's going to be a fun fight. And basically, you got Diana Balbita. She's very aggressive. She goes forward the entire time. She's also dropping a weight class, so that's going to be interesting to see. And Hannah Goldie is kind of the opposite. She likes to point fight. She likes to play it safe. But I'd say she comes out of a better camp at Fusion Excel. Speaking of Rodolfo Vieira and Phil Rowe, used to be Mike Perry. Mike Perry's on this big decline because he left that gym. But back when Mike Perry was, that guy that everybody loved, he was training out of Fusion Excel. So they got some pretty good fighters there. It's a tough one to call. I feel like if you got the plus 180, the plus 160, plus 150, whatever it was on Balbita, I understand why, because it seems like a coin flip fight. So, you did your job as a gambler taking a line like that. Right now, it's like minus 105. So just sit back and see what happens. But at the end of the day, you got the best of it. So you should be proud of that if you got that kind of number on Balbita. I'm going to go on the opposite side and take Goldie via close split decision. It could go either way. I don't have much confidence in the pick. I'll just fade the public.
Man, that it makes sense. And Big Marley, one of our guys in the DFS Army Discord was talking about this fight and suggested one side over the other. And I said, I don't know how you looked at that fight and favored anybody. Like, it's just, they're both kind of really not that good. I have no idea. I mean, Marley, do you have a big lean here? Do you see one of these ladies as having some sort of an edge over the other one significantly?
No, not a big lean. It is pretty 50-50, but I would actually favor Balbita slightly. I just think she just looks better to the eye. She's got crisper strikes, whereas Hannah Goldie's real stiff because she's so muscular. And Balbita's got a 7-inch reach advantage, 3-inch height advantage. I see this being a striking fight. I don't think the ground game, which is what has been her downfall so far, I don't think that's going to come into play in this fight. So I think we get a 15-minute striking match. And to me, Balbita is the better striker. I think we're getting the discount because she's 0-2 in the UFC. So give me Balbita. I mean, they're both right there in the mid-range, but Balbita is one of the underdogs on DraftKings that I'm picking to win. I think even if this goes to a decision, there could be enough striking for it to be 10x or more. I don't see her having 100-plus ceiling, and there's a couple dogs on this slate who could just break the slate. I don't think she's one of them, but I think she's a safer, somewhat underdog win, and I'll have her in some lineups. I like her in all formats, really. And then Goldie, I just don't want to give into the pot with too many different lineups, so this one will probably be one where I mostly fade Goldie. If I'm doing MME, I won't X her out, but I'll keep her like 10% or less probably.
Yeah, man, I hear you. The money has definitely, I'm not going to say favored Balbita so much as Balbita came in as the underdog and the money came in and leveled it out. I think it's really hard. Now, one interesting thing I'm seeing on the UFC stats is that Balbita appears more likely to be the one going for a takedown compared to Goldie. Did you see anything in your study of her past fights that shows that? Because Goldie is definitely not a good grappler from what I've seen.
Yeah, she took down Jojua and gave her only path to victory in that fight, which was an armbar from guard.
We all know that was like the world's dumbest move. That was, man, I can't remember who it was. You guys will remember this. Remember somebody went up against Sarah Morose and was like, the only way she could lose was get into her guard, and she just jumps into it. I'm like, what do you? I think it was
Ashley Evan Smith.
Yes, yeah, the shaved head. I was gonna just say girl with shaved head on side, but yeah, Ashley. I was like, what are you doing? I've never screamed so hard, and I felt the same way about Balbita in the fight against Joshua. Like, what the fuck? This girl only has one thing. She does an armbar, and you're gonna die. But nonetheless, she did that. So does that tell you that she'll go for a takedown here? Like, that she's likely to do that? I mean, she's done it. Do you see anything in her past history that says she thinks she's a good grappler?
Maybe she mixes in like one or two. I would think if she's winning in the striking game, though. I mean, I don't fucking know with her. I don't know why she went for a takedown in her last fight. So yeah, probably she will go for a takedown or two, I guess.
She went to the College of Caligul National Gorge Tiaka Drobo Turno Severin. You guys familiar with that college?
Yeah, I party there like every weekend.
You know a little Russian you're not telling us about there, Kevin? Because that sounded awfully natural.
I just do the accent, man. I had to get the accent in. So you'll see over a few more of these fights when we get some more Russian or Eastern Europeans. I do enjoy an accent once in a while.
Parents or grandparents?
No, I'm from Brooklyn, and literally Brooklyn is littered with Russian people. Like you can't grow up in Brooklyn and not have like, yo, bro, what's up, manya? We go out for dinner tonight. We pick up American hot chicks. Like that's my best friends all sounded like that. So I've been around it. I've been in the house. The moms would be screaming at me in Russian and shit. I had to learn it. Like, shut the fuck up in Russian. Like I learned it because they would just yell at me.
You see, I told you there was something else.
Yeah,
to the story.
Yeah, that was a little something there. All right, boys. Let's move on. Second fight of the night. Sarge Eubanks taking on some chick I never heard of called Elise Reed. With Sarge coming in as a biggest on the fight card, minus 355 favorite. The fight goes to decision prop, 50-50, sitting at a pick'em. Now, Big Marley, Sarge is, and I'm going to credit, I think it was one of your tweets that I saw, and I can't say for sure, but I don't know. You know what? I can't credit it. I don't remember, but somebody was like, hey, there's this perception that Sarge is a gasser, but yet she's won the third round. Was that you, Dan, or was that somebody else? Yet she's won the third round of like her last 6 fights in a row. Like, that's a bullshit.
I saw that tweet as well. It wasn't me.
Okay, so sorry, I can't credit that person.
It was Luke. It was Luke.
Luke. Okay, so Luke, credit to Luke for that tweet. Now, Big Marl, who is Elise Reed, and why should I think that she has a chance as an underdog outside of that she's plus 270, which gives her an implied probability of, I don't know, 22% or something.
Yeah, she's really nothing special. This one just all comes down to Sajara, really, because this is the drop to 125 for Sajara, where she had a chance to fight for the first title ever, and she couldn't make weight for that. So now, 35 years old, 36 years old, I don't know why she's comfortable making 125 now, but this Reed girl, she's coming up from 115, so Sajara's going to have a big size advantage. It's just about if the weight cut's bad, if she can go a hard 3 rounds, but I expect that she has a big grappling edge in this fight, a big wrestling edge. I think she's the better striker too, but Reed is just, all she really is just kind of high output. It's not pretty, it's just she's always working. And if she can slow down Sajara, that's her path to victory, is just to outwork her in this fight, but she's probably going to need to keep it on the feet. Maybe she could land some like ground and pound and top control, but I don't think she wants to play around on the mat at all. Just kind of dance around, outstrike Sajara would be her path. If she wins, I think she'd pay off that $6,900 price tag, because I think that would mean Sajara has gassed badly and it just looks ugly in the last half of the fight or something like that. But give me Sajara to either have a pretty dominant decision or a submission.
I like it. Dan, can she grapple? Does she have BJJ expertise at all?
I mean, it's one of these situations where you can't really count on her to, submit a black belt like Sajara, or I wouldn't really bank on her getting takedowns either. But she's got BJJ in the sense that, she's been in some bad spots in these fights and she's not getting finished. She's fighting a way out of them. So she can survive for sure. It's just surviving most likely leads to losing a decision. It's more so a question of, is she going to get finished in the first round? I really don't think so. And with Sarge, I mean, look, you got to go with her because of the experience and obviously the grappling. But, man, Sarge has let a lot of people down at similar prices before. I know y'all remember when she fought Betch Correia, and she was like a minus 330 favorite there, and everyone thought it was the easiest money. Well, a lot of people that bet her, I didn't bet her, but whoever bet her thought she was the easiest money on the card. Betch Correia goes out there and wins the decision. So I'm just saying, and even though I know Betch Correia is a former title challenger, and this chick is only 4-0, I get it. It's just, we're talking about a very steep price, right? So I do have to go with Sajara, of course. I definitely favor her. I would just, tread with caution at a price like this.
Man, I can't believe we're calling her a former title challenger. Like, really? Betch Correia? I'm sorry.
She fought Ronda Rousey for the title. It was a massive pay-per-view.
I remember it. I get it. But, I mean, I don't think that she earned the title of former title competitor based off of that situation at all, even though it's totally true.
Sajara could have had that title as well, but she blew it.
She could have been a former champion.
Yeah, hell yeah, she really could have.
She was supposed to fight Nico Montano. You got to imagine how undisciplined she must have been for a UFC title, not just a UFC title fight. She couldn't come in on a weight against Nico Montano. It's not just the opportunity of a lifetime to win a belt, but it's also like a favorable opponent.
Yeah.
And it's
this
usually
Elise Reed's going to hype her up to get there. I don't know. It's going to be tough. I want to see the weigh-ins for this for sure.
Nico's the one that always pulls out of the fights. and this time it was Sarge pulling out. So I know we're bringing up the past. That doesn't really matter here. She's beat some good people since then, but Elise Reed's gonna have to fight tough. And maybe they can get into a stand-up kind of war. Maybe Sajara, doesn't shoot like everyone wants her to. There's always that possibility, right? Or maybe she wins the first round on top and then doesn't shoot in the second round and it becomes a stand-up fight. So there's all kinds of ways this could go wrong. I mean, you're dealing with a fighter with a 6-6 record. So that's why proceed with caution with a price like that.
Yeah, 9,300 is not my favorite price tag. But at the same time, she could dominate in the first round, get multiple takedowns in the submission. So I just don't know what the hell I'm going to do with Eubanks yet. I feel like I'm probably field weight because I don't want to get burned by her, but I also don't want her I don't want her in my single entry at the same time.
I mean, my girl does not have a long-standing history of putting up scores on DraftKings that would be any kind of good for 9,300.
All much tougher fights, though, and at 135.
Yes. So, I mean, is Sarah Morose really a tougher fight than this? Like, Sarah Morose is tough.
She's
fight.
bigger.
It's a completely different fight than Sarah Moras. Sarah Moras is the kind of girl that's going to flop on her back and try to fish for arm bars, whereas Reed is trying to keep the standing and try to box up Sajara Eubanks. So it can't be compared.
That's fair. And I guess I would say the Roxy fight, similar deal, where that's not somebody who's trying to stand. But that other approach actually is better for Sarge because she wants to be grappling. So I don't know. I don't see any sort of 115-point upside over here outside of Sarge has not been. I guess she's moving down. The other one's moving up. There's always that scenario like what happened last week where she's just larger and the other girl hasn't felt power like that. But Sarge is knocking anybody out. So I don't know. That's a tough one. It's pretty fadey for me on DraftKings, if I'm being honest. Not super interested in Sarge at all. And I think I might take a shot on Elise Reed just because Sarge has been a disappointer. She's one of these fighters that just disappoint you sometimes. So I think I might take a stab or two on Elise Reed here. Not that I think she's going to win, but just because, Sarge has been a disappointment machine at times. All right, let's move on. Next fight on the card, we've got Julio Arce taking on Andre Ewell. Arce's the slight -205 favorite. Ewell coming in at a +164 underdog. And interestingly, this fight doesn't look so sexy for DraftKings. Fight goes to decision, -180. So I'll go back to you here, Dan. I mean, is there anything... Andre Ewell, very up and down in his career, seems to have a lot of flaws in his game, in my mind. And Julio Arce was somebody I think that maybe... And I'm curious to see how high you are on him. I know he was a guy that a lot of people were really high on at one point, and I think a couple recent losses here kind of brought him down to earth. So where are you at with this pair?
No, I mean, actually, I think I'm higher on both guys than most, man. I like both these guys a lot. I know they've had some tough losses, but look at the competition the tough losses have come against, man. I mean, Andre Ewell lost to Chito Vera and Nathaniel Wood. Like, these guys are studs, man. And Andre Ewell lost to Hakeem Dawadu and Shaman Moraes. Like, they're not losing the bums, and they're always involved in very exciting fights. So I like this fight a lot. I think it should be super exciting. I understand Arce being favored. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's just that, do I favor him, to this extent, right? Like, I thought that Andre Ewell maybe should have been a slighter underdog, not this big of a dog, because he can make fights close, man. He's super long. His hands are on point. And when you give him a stand-up battle, he's always got a shot, and that's exactly what it's going to be here. The issue with Ewell is that, you can break him down, and when fights get kind of tough, he's not, usually the guy that digs deep, but man, he's always involved in exciting fights. So I'm gonna lean Arce, but man, I can't fault anybody for taking a shot on Andre Ewell here. He's gonna make it close, and maybe he could get a split decision out of it.
Absolutely, I hear that. BigMarley, do you have a strong lean here? It seems like both these guys gonna stand and strike. Couple southpaws, not much grappling for the most part for either guy. They want to keep it standing.
No, I see it the same way as Dan, where it should just be a closer to even line, and I see it being a striking fight that will be very close on the numbers, and you can never trust the judges. I think Arce's the more technical, better striker of the two, but Ewell's he's a long fighter. He fights long as well. He's going to be throwing out that jab, and I think I think it could work. So I'm going to take Ewell by split decision. But I don't care for this fight on DraftKings. I don't think either one of them scores well unless they get a knockout. It's just going to be a lot easier for Ewell to get 10x his $7,100 price tag than Arce $9,100. So Arce is probably my fade of the week. And I think Ewell's better made for cash games. I feel good about him going 3 rounds. And even if he loses, he'll put up 30 plus most likely. So give me Ewell in a close fight.
Can I respond to that comment real quick?
Yeah,
Kevin?
Bon, quickly.
So firstly, Ewell's got a longer reach than 6'1" Julian Erosa, and Ewell doesn't get knocked out every single fight like Julian Erosa.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, Juicy J. We love Juicy J, but I mean, he's not that good, right? So I'm going to piggyback what you both said about this fight and just say this. Listen, neither of these guys does anything that scores particularly well. They're 4 and change strikes per minute guys. There's no grappling involved here. For that reason, Julio Arce in particular, 9,100 on DraftKings. Now, I promised to talk FanDuel, $20 on FanDuel. That's expensive, right? These are expensive fighters that you need to lock in a win. First of all, I don't even know if Arce is winning this shit. It looks really close on paper to me. 2 guys have almost identical stats, size very similar, no takedowns. We'll find out who's a slightly better striker, but I'm not that confident that Arce is going to win. Nonetheless, more so, I'm less confident that he wins and gets a fast finish, that he scores enough to justify 20 on FanDuel, 9,100 on DraftKings. So for me, this is, for DFS purposes, this is a dog or pass situation. I'm only interested in Ewell in this fight. I'm going to have Arce. The only interest is in that flash KO possibility level, the 5% range. Beyond that, this is not an interesting fight for me. For fantasy purposes, for the favorite, too expensive. The underdog, Marley, I'm going to disagree with you. There's so few underdogs on this card that are alive, and we've seen a lot of this lately with a few of these cards where you get a $7,100 fighter, he scores 83 points in a win. That has every chance in the world to be the nuts. So if Ewell sneaks a decision out of this, I am interested in him on DraftKings because he's just so cheap. There's no one else really priced in that range that floats my boat all that much. But
yeah, that's my issue so far. I haven't really built lineups this week, but so there's like 3 or so underdogs I'm picking to win, but I don't think they score very well in their wins. And then there's like 3 underdogs I'm picking to lose, but if they do win, I think they're scoring 100 plus. So I don't know what to do with my underdogs. I'm kind of just going to mix them all in, see what the domination station tells me to do, I guess. But that's been my issue with hand building is, do I want to take a shot on these boom or bust fighters, or do I want to pick somebody that I'm taking to win with a 70-point type score? I don't know.
Yeah, decisions we make, and sometimes the best way to deal with those decisions is on the sports book. Like, give me the win. I think you and I are on the opposite side of something I might be willing to bet on. So that's going to be really interesting to get to that one. But overall, this is a Ewell on DFS or pass situation for me for the most part. All right, boys, let's get to one of the first, what I'm going to call really exciting fights on this card. We've got Adrian Yanez taking on Randy Costa. Really exciting fight. Fun fighters. Little dudes, but still a minus 300 doesn't go to decision prop, which is really interesting. And BigMarley, I mean, Yanez minus 230 favorite. Costa plus 184. I feel like the line is a little wide here. Just maybe I'm wrong, but I just kind of get that sense the line is a little bit wide. But overall, the minus 300 inside of this fight stacks up well for DraftKings FanDuel purposes for fantasy for the winner, assuming the minus 300 doesn't go to decision prop is accurate. Do you have a strong lean here in this one? And, what's your take overall?
Yeah, I like Yanez here. I think it's knockout or bust for Costa. He's dangerous in round 1, but the one time he's been past round 1 against what was his name? Davis. I don't even remember the guy's name. I don't think he's in the UFC anymore. He ends up getting pieced up and then submitted. And if he doesn't get the early knockout here, I just don't think he has any chance to outstrike Yanez. And I think Yanez is going to be the better striker in the first round as well. Yanez is legit. This guy's hands are for real. And I'm going to pick him to beat most people in the division. Anyone not ranked, I'm probably going to pick Yanez over. And if Costa doesn't land something big, a big head kick in round 1, I just don't know how he wins. However, if Costa wins, he's scoring 100-plus points. He's on the nuts lineup. So that's one of my issues is I don't know how much of him I want when I'm picking him to lose. I'm picking him to lose badly, honestly. But I still have to get some of them in GPPs, whereas Yanez is going to be a core play for me most likely because I think he dominates this fight. And probably finishes clearly. I don't know if they're friends with the whole Reese's Dr. Pepper thing. I feel like these guys are buddies, so maybe they won't be going for the kill, I guess. But that would favor Yanez even more for me because I think he would pick Costa apart if it goes to a decision as well.
I saw this Reese's Dr. Pepper thing. Dan, what is all that shit about? What is that?
No, I mean, they're just trying to get a sponsorship. And they're trying to prove that they can promote this fight without, bringing up people's families and any bullshit like that. So, because for a fact that these guys are going to stand and bang until one man falls or until they get a 50K fight of the night bonus. So I feel where they're coming from. They really don't have to hype it up at all. Like, you say those two names and I'm watching, period. But basically, to beat Yanez, you have to fight him the opposite of chaotic. You got to, put your head between his legs. You got to try to stall the fight. You got to run away from him. The guys that have beat him, Domingo Pilarte. I mean, I know on paper that looks terrible, but if you watch that fight, Domingo Pilarte literally ran away from him to the point where the ref was like, I'm going to take away a point. Stop running. You have to fight, So these guys want no part of Adrian Yanez. And also, he just lacked a little bit of seasoning during those times in his career. Same with the Miles Johns fight. It's not like, all the stand-up exchanges were won by Adrian Yanez, just Miles Johns kind of, pinned him up against the fence, mixed in a takedown or two, the kind of stuff that Randy Costa is not going to do. Randy Costa is a wild man. He's going to go right after Yanez. The issue with that is that plays right into Yanez's very smooth counter-striking game. And look, Costa is definitely dangerous in the early going. There's no questions asked, but he just lacks the experience and the seasoning. If both men, get to the deep waters and they start to get tested. And so I got to go with Adrian Yanez here. And I agree with Marley that he most likely wins the early going as well. So, yeah, I'm going with Adrian Yanez for sure here.
I love it. Marley, anything to add there?
Nah, give me all the Yanez.
Like Yanez here.
Love Yanez.
Everybody loves Yanez. I'm just looking at the fight from an overall scoring, -300. Both guys literally finishing people in the first round in most of their fight. Like, it's so common for these guys to get early finishes. I agree with you both. Like, this should be violence. Yanez clearly favored for a reason. But one thing I'm just going to, neither one of these guys, in my opinion, has a signature win yet. Neither one of these guys has a win against somebody where I can go, oh, wow, he's really good. Journey Newsom and Boston Salmon.
People said that about Corey Sandhagen too, but then it's too late once you realize once they start beating these guys, you don't get that line anymore.
That's
fine. I mean, like you see like Conor McGregor fight Marcus Brimage and Diego Brandao. It's like if you can't recognize the talent, that's a different story altogether. And plus, these guys are 2 and 3 fights deep into their UFC careers. They haven't even been put in front of anybody yet. But you got to be able to assess these skills so that when they do fight somebody, that you're ready to capitalize.
Yeah, it's I totally agree. But where I'm going with it is just there's not enough there for me to definitely be like, I am touching Randy Costa here. I'm just playing Yanez. Like, no, I'm trying to win tournaments on DraftKings Fanduel, and Costa can definitely land the strike, touch the right spot, get that KO. It's something he's done in his career. So for me, I'm just saying for my lineup purposes, I'm not gonna.
I think it's pretty all-in fight almost.
Yeah, I want a lot of exposure, but what my point is, 8,200. Wait. Actually, 9K, 7,200. So you're going to pay a lot for Yanez. You get a really good deal. Basically, if Costa wins this fight, he's in the nuts lineup. Like you're part of the 100K if he wins and you have him and you got the rest of them right. So you got to have some exposure there is where I'm going with it. Yanez at his salary, 9K. On FanDuel, it's also $20. So at the high side on there, he's going to need that finish. He's going to need to do it. And, I think each one is fighting the best opponent that they faced. That was really my point. I think both of these guys are going up against the best guy that they faced so far. So, best man will win, and whoever takes this will deservedly sort of hopefully get a fight against somebody with a better and a bigger name, but this is the best and the toughest fight either one of these guys has faced so far in their careers. All right. Next up, we've got Ian Heinisch taking on Nasserdeen Imavov. Heinisch is coming in as a -158 favorite, with Imavov a slight +128 underdog. Fight goes to decision, -164, so more likely to go to decision than not. Now, Big Marley. Imavov is a tricky one here because his name makes it sound like he's from Eastern Europe. Like maybe he's Dagestani, got a fucking beard going on, you know, meet him in the street, a little scary looking. Maybe he's like, you know, I'm like, hey, maybe this guy's from some other badass place. He's from Georgia, you know, fucking nasty badass motherfuckers come from there. Maybe he's from Kazakhstan. So I'm already thinking like this guy might be drinking the fermented horse semen. You know what I'm saying? Kazakhstan. Then I look it up. My boy's from Paris, France, sipping fucking tea and coffee with the little finger, the pinky up, watching the people walk by at the cafe in France. Okay. So already this is false advertising. I'm like annoyed by it. And this is why we're going to have a little debate about this fight. Because I think you were confused. You thought this guy was from Dagestan. He's not, bro. He's from France. Okay. You know what this guy eats? He eats escargot.
Yeah, I would like him. He'd be favored if he was from Dagestan, though.
This guy, this is what he sounds like when this guy has dinner. Okay, I wanted that. Nordin Imavov, you're at his house. He's having the fuck is that? He's slurping escargots out of his like that. That doesn't produce muscles, bro. That doesn't teach you how to wrestle when you're eating escargot and drinking coffee at the cafe, watching people walk by in Paris, eating heavily sauced foods. Ashley wants to know if it wasn't tea with horse semen milk in there. No, they have that in Kazakhstan. They don't have that shit in Paris. So now that being said, Marley, do you still feel that Imavov is a strong play against Heinisch here, knowing that he eats escargot for dinner on a regular basis?
No, I don't think he's a strong play at all. I just think this is a 50-50 fight. So we're getting a little bit of value there on Imavov. But on DraftKings, I don't think either one scores well unless they get a finish, which is the issue I brought up. Imavov's a dog I'm picking to win, but I don't even know that he's going to score 10x in a win here. I just think he's the taller, longer, faster, better movement striker, and he can win 2 rounds on the scorecards. I just don't see it being a dominating performance from either guy. I think it's back and forth the entire time, not high volume. Winner probably scores 60 points, something like that. I would just rather take Imavov. Give me him because he's an underdog. That's really the only reason, is because he's an underdog. But other than that, this is one of the slower paced fights on the card. Don't expect it to score well at all, but maybe one of them can land a big knockout shot, and that's the only path, I think, to 100 plus for either one of them.
Dan, take Cyril Gane out of the equation for a second. Gane, whatever the fuck he's called. Has there ever been a good fighter that came from the French MMA circuit? That shit was illegal in France up until like 5 minutes ago.
Francis Ngannou, but he was born in.
Oh, look, stop. France, just because he's got the word France in his name.
Well, I mean, he trained in Paris for years.
Yeah, that's but he's not from France.
Well, this guy wasn't born in France. He was born in Russia. I mean, that's why he just lives in France.
No, so. He grew up in France. He went to French kindergarten, pre-1A, first grade. He was there the whole time. Like him.
He's got that Russian blood, though, man. His ancestry is all Russian.
Him and his buddies were crying, like as men, they're very emotional, the men in France, bro. They would cry.
Yeah, I mean, look, the kid's solid, though, man. I mean, he's had 2 good fights to start off his UFC career. He beat Jordan Williams, and I understand Jordan Williams is a welterweight, but Jordan Williams is still a tough out. I thought they had a dogfight, and then the next one against Phil Haas. I mean, Phil Haas is a beast, man. And there were moments towards the end of that fight where it looked like Imavov might get a knockout. I don't think that Heinisch is anywhere near as physical as Phil Haas at all. And in fact, Heinisch is the kind of guy that I like to take as an underdog because Heinisch has that similar quality as Imavov. He's also a dog. And he's the kind of guy that you start to gas out on someone like Heinisch, that's where he takes over. So you give me, an older Brazilian on his way out. That's where I love to capitalize on a guy like Ian Heinisch. Here, however, I don't feel comfortable at all laying that kind of price on a guy like Heinisch. I think it is a dog or pass situation. I do see there being a lot of clinching, a lot of back and forth exchanges, these guys competing for top position. So yeah, I think it's dog or pass. I'm gonna go with the French sniper, even though is it Russian sniper or French sniper?
No, this is French, man. If he was Russian, I'd be all over that. He's got a Russian sounding name, but no, you can't grow up in France and be Russian. I'm sorry. The Russians are the best wrestlers in MMA, period. Like the French are the worst wrestlers in MMA. Like that's really well known. I'm on the Heinisch side. I think, this has a little bit of Carlos Jr.-ish kind of like sense to me. I think Imavov, I don't think that's the proper comparison, but I just think Imavov has proven nothing. I am definitely not as high as you are on Jordan Williams to assume that a win over him tells me this guy is any good. Heinisch does have wins in the UFC against real fighters that we know aren't terrible. So just based off of that alone, overall though, this is a terrible fight for DFS purposes. Heinisch has never scored particularly well at all. So I'm not interested in it from that point of view. But I do actually feel pretty confident that Heinisch could gut out a win here. I don't think Imavov can take him down. I don't know if he's going to go for takedowns, but I think if he wanted them, he could probably get them. I haven't seen anything in Imavov's game to say he could stop a takedown from Heinisch. So I think Heinisch probably will have the grappling edge here if he wants to use it. And overall, I think he's going to win the fight. I just don't think that that's going to score very well. So he's not somebody I'm interested in paying up for on FanDuel or DraftKings, which is nice because I don't really need to commit too hard to this opinion of him winning the fight, which makes me happy. So let's move on. We've got this next fight then is really exciting for DFS purposes, for scoring purposes, and for watching purposes. I think it's one of the fights I'm more excited to. I mean, we like Yanez Costa, but this is another one of what I'm going to call highlight fights on this card. There's a few of them. There's about 4 of them that I think we want to go heavy exposure to on DFS and just in general and watching them. So this next one is right there with it. We've got Brendan Allen taking on Puna Soriano. Even odds. It's a perfect pick 'em. Both fighters are at -110. And this one has a -340, massive, doesn't go to decision prop. We love fights that end inside the distance, Dan. And this one, when I did my write-up on this one, I just kind of had it like, Brendan Allen by sub or Soriano by KO. It feels like pretty expected how this one could go down. I mean, how do you see this one?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Allen's obviously going to try to get that body lock. He's going to try to either trip him to the ground or take his back, and from there try to choke him out. And Puna Haley, exactly what he wants to do. There's a reason that I call him Hawaiian Vitor. He's out here chucking bombs, man. He's trying to take people's heads off. He's a first-round finisher. There's just questions about what happens if it goes past the first round because he does throw with extreme ferocity. So we got to know, can he maintain that? I mean, probably not. But at the same time, can you take those shots from him? Because, I know the word, the term punching power gets thrown around a lot, but this dude's got legit punching power. He's got that one-hitter quitter in his fist. So Allen's got to be careful, but at the same time, what's interesting? I actually think that Allen's improved his striking, and I actually think that, if Allen doesn't get caught, I think he might actually be jabbing up Puna a little bit here and there, might be getting off on some leg kicks. I think Allen's going to impress a lot of people. It's just that when he does eat that big shot, how's he going to respond to that? That's the big question, right? So I do lean with Puna because I do think he's got that equalizer. However, you can definitely make a case for Brendan Allen here, man, because he's the more experienced guy. He's the one that's taken an L and had to bounce back. He's the one that, is on the cusp of the top 15. So, and he's got a very dominant path to victory on the mat. Now, listen, we can't sit here and act like Puna doesn't have a ground game. That's not the case. He's actually a former D3 All-American wrestler. So he's got a very good base. If you're an All-American wrestler, that means you've got a very solid base. The only thing is that Brendan Allen isn't out here shooting for traditional takedowns, singles and doubles. That's not what he does. He's a body lock guy. So that's where it gets interesting because we don't know Puna's experience with that kind of grappling. So I'm a lean towards Puna, but I agree with it being a pick'em.
There we go. Totally agree. Big Marley, this one's important for DFS purposes. Very important. Massive inside the distance prop here. Do you have a lean either way? I mean, it's a pick'em fight.
No, I really don't have anything to add to the breakdown. It's just one of the best 3 fights on the card to target for DraftKings. This will be the one that I hedge with the most. I would like to be overweight on both sides of it. But my preferred play is going to be Puna. I got him with the first round knockout. If he can keep Allen away from him, and actually I feel like Allen might be willing to strike a little bit too much, and that could lead to the downfall. But that punch of power is definitely scary, and I think he breaks the slate with the first round knockout. But at the same time, if he doesn't get the first round knockout, Allen probably takes over, and if he's getting takedowns, he'll probably get a finish of his own. They're the mid-range fight of the week. I just think the winner is going to be on the optimal lineup. So load up on this fight. If I had to play just one lineup, I would rather have Puna on it.
Did we get fooled by Allen when he took on Holland in thinking that he's this like crazy grappler guy, when in reality it was just Holland is so bad at counter grappling that's just the best path to beat him? And then we didn't really see a lot of that out of Allen in the next few fights, and we kind of saw a little more. He's had some other fights where he was able to kind of execute some takedowns and whatnot, but he didn't bother even taking down Breeze when they fought. Nothing really against Kyle Dawkins. It
was all ground game though that won him those fights. Like maybe Breeze took him down. I thought he took Breeze down, but yeah, he submitted him right away. Dawkins took him down, but he reversed him every time and dominated him on the mat. And then Robertson thought he wanted to play heel hook game with the BJJ guy, and that didn't turn out well. So no, it's all the mat, and that's where his edge is going to be here. I don't see him being the better striker until Puna's gassed out.
There we go. Yeah, and I mean, I just agree with what you guys said. This fight, massive inside the distance prop. You got to play it. You got to have load up. I don't know if I want to be 100%, but 80, 85, 90% exposed to this fight. The salaries are low. They don't even need the finish. When you're 8K, 8,200, when you're on FanDuel, let's see where Puna is, 15 and 16 on FanDuel. When you're at this price level, you just need to win, and you're probably going to get there. So, yeah, I'm with you both. Give me it's funny. I favor Allen a little bit just because I like submission grappling over relying on a fast finish as a general approach. I think it's like more likely always that a submission grappler will have his way, but, not that much. Very little. Maybe I'd go 55-45 just to reflect my lean. That's how I do it when I don't really know, but I think the fight's going to score incredibly well. I just go like 55-45 and, a little more just to get a taste of my lean. All right, let's move on. Next fight on the card, we've got Jordan Williams taking on Mickey Gall. Williams, the aforementioned Williams, who took a loss to Imavov. Coming in at minus 178 as the favorite. Mickey Gall, plus 144 underdog. Pretty close odds on the fight goes to decision at minus 134. So a little more likely than not, according to the Vegas implied probabilities. Now, Big Marley, Mickey Gall. That's all I got to say. Mickey Gall. Really? He lost to Diego Sanchez like recently. That's not a good sign.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that pretty much sums up this fight. It's more so of a fade on Gall than it is any confidence on Williams, but I think Williams is a much better striker in this fight. A lot more power. And Gall, I don't know if it's submission or bust. Maybe he can win rounds with grappling and get it on the scorecards, but I feel like he needs to get a submission at some point in this fight, because I don't see him being able to wrestle consistently against Williams. I think he would be fine stuffing most of the takedowns, and Williams would probably be bombing on him on the feet. But this is also Williams' first trip down to 170 when they've been telling us he can't make that weight cut because of his diabetes. So kind of want to see the weigh-ins. Wouldn't shock me if this fight didn't happen type deal. But give me Williams in a clear decision. Get both of them have gas tank worries. That's my biggest worry with Williams as a favorite. If he doesn't get an early finish, I think he slows down and won't be scoring very much in the later half of the fight. So don't exactly know how much exposure I'll get to Williams, but it's more so Williams or pass for me on DraftKings, because I think the knockout's more likely than the submission from Gall.
Man, Dan, Mickey Gall was piecing up Mike Perry on the feet. I don't care what anybody says. He was whooping that boy's ass when it was standing. And we all think of Gall as this submission BJJ grappler guy, but is he? See that? I mean, has he shown that he has? I get it. He submitted, CM Punk and, some reporter guy, but is he a BJJ guy? Because I saw Platinum Perry out wrestle the shit out of this dude, and I really haven't seen him do anything. I mean, I pretty much saw Diego Sanchez also out wrestle the shit out of him, and I don't know. I'm kind of thinking, I don't know what Mickey Gall is.
Mickey Gall's a guy that doesn't belong in the UFC is what he is. I mean, he's not the best athlete. He's not the best striker. He's not the best grappler. He's not the toughest. So, I mean, listen, the CM Punk thing was fun. He got exposed in every single time that he fought someone that was remotely legit. And now it's time to move on. And this whole Mike Perry fight, firstly, Mike Perry, if you talk to his old coaches, they'll say he didn't just leave the gym. He left planet Earth. Mike Perry is on one of the biggest declines that we've ever seen in all our years watching the sport. If you remember Mike Perry when he first came into the UFC, the guy that knocked out Hot Chocolate, the guy that knocked out Hyung Yu Lim, the guy that knocked out Jake Ellenberger, that was a scary guy. The guy that had that war with Santiago Ponzinibbio, he was scary, but now he's become a walking punching bag since he went crazy and left his gym. And Mickey had a little bit of success, but let's not overblow it at all. There was only one knockdown landed in that fight, and that was by Mike Perry. And there were takedowns landed in that fight only by Mike Perry. All the damage was issued by Mike Perry. Mike Perry actually whooped him, man. So
wait. I was sweating my balls off. I had a lot of money riding on Mike Perry, man. I was sweating my balls off when that fight was striking. When it was standing and striking, I was like, take him down, Mike Perry. And I wasn't expecting that going into the fight. That's what was so weird about it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Mike Perry's a walking punching bag, but if you rewatch it, Mike Perry walked him down the entire fight, and he was so unthreatened by Mickey Gall that it was just that kind of ordeal. Mickey Gall is not the toughest. So when you talk about the cardio thing with Jordan Williams, I mean, yeah, I've seen him gas out in fights before, but it's not the way that Mickey Gall gasses out in fights, because at least Jordan Williams, he's got the heart of a lion. He's actually a real fighter. So Jordan Williams is the kind of guy that will push through the fatigue, whereas Mickey Gall will back himself straight into the fence, will let you tee off on him, and he doesn't have that much fight in him when the going gets tough. Now, regarding the whole dropping to 170 pounds thing, in Jordan Williams' interviews, he said that he got with the PI, they're sending him his meals, and in addition to that, he also moved to Denver, Colorado in the elevation, so that's a good place to work on your cardio. His new coach is Mark Montoya of Factory X. They got a bunch of great fighters there. He's worked with them for 10 months, so it sounds to me like someone that's taking their career seriously. But even if he didn't do that move, I still think he whoops Mickey Gall. Man, he's too physical for Mickey Gall. He's too tough for Mickey Gall. His ground game is better than Mickey Gall's. His stand-up is better. He's got more power. He's tougher. I mean, what else do you want? Jordan Williams is going to break Mickey Gall on Saturday.
There we go. I still remember your breakdown of Randy Brown versus Mickey Gall, I think it was.
Classic.
There was a little nervousness. Then there was just maybe a second or two of concern during that fight, just because it's Randy Brown, and he's a guy that you never feel confident with until the fight is over. But he real manned him.
I mean, these guys feel so unthreatened by Mickey Gall that sometimes they're not on their P's and Q's. They might get swept, or they might get tagged with a couple extra shots that you didn't want, because it's everyone. No one takes Mickey Gall seriously. These guys, they think it's a joke. So then they realize it's a real fight, but they're still good enough to beat him. So Jordan Williams, yeah, there might be a sketchy moment or two, but I think he's got this.
All right. Yeah, I agree as well. You will never catch me betting on Mickey Gall or relying on Mickey Gall in a UFC fight. You know, if he was selling a car out in Jersey and I went to his dealership and, you know, he wanted to get me a Nissan, you know, he could probably sell me on that, but he ain't selling me on winning UFC fights. So that's not happening. All right, real quick before we move on, guys, listen, if you're watching this podcast and you like what you see, do me a favor, do us a solid. Smash the like button, hit subscribe. If you're not a part of DFS Army, of course, we want you to get signed up as VIP. You can get my cheat sheets, you get Big Marley's breakdowns, you can get Dan's cheat sheet. Dan puts together a full cheat sheet to break down the card. Got the winner picks, got fight confidence in there, got notes. Big Marley does it. I do it. So get signed up at DFS Army. We've got an MMA membership. It's $25 a month. You get a Domination Station Optimizer. You get projections. You get ownership projections. That alone is worth the cost of admission. And if you don't want to do that, do me the favor. Smash the like button. You're watching the video. Smash subscribe. We'll let you know next time we come on. We break down all the fights together. Hope you're having fun. We hope you're entertained with this stuff. I will do a Russian accent every once in a while. Keep you more entertained. Look at Marley. He laughs the whole time. All we ask, smash like, get subscribed. Help us out. It's a free video. You know, not asking too much. All right. With that said, we move on. I really like this fight. Macy Barber taking on Miranda Maverick. Very close odds. Plus 118 for Barber. Minus 144 for Maverick. Slight favorite. Fight goes to decision. A little surprising. Dan, do we bet props? Take the under on this. Fight goes to decision. Minus 225.
Oh, you think someone's getting finished?
I mean, both of these girls are finishers. I'm not saying somebody's get finished. I'm just saying like minus 225. Interesting. And I only say it because both of these girls are finishers. They're both super tough. I don't know who's going to do the finishing here, but they're both, you know, Macy Barber knocks bitches out. That's what she do.
Yeah, she hits very hard.
She hits hard. Like, put her on her ass. Not that good, but I don't think Miranda Maverick's in here necessarily being a grappling queen. She wants to knock you out also. So with that said, Dan, you know, my girls, tough, Maverick, Barber knocking everybody out when she's not on her ass. Maverick looking pretty good so far in the UFC. She does go for, both of these girls will go for takedowns. I'm not sure how much success either will have here. Who gets the takedown? Who's better at it?
I think if any of them is going to get a takedown, I think it's going to be actually Maverick getting the takedowns. I really like some of the setups to her entries. And she seems like the more well put together fighter. It's just power counts for a lot in the female divisions. And we don't quite know yet how Maverick will react to getting hit by someone with this kind of power. So that's the big question, because you know she could be looking amazing against these girls that are quite frankly harmless on the feet, but she gets hit once by Barber, and we just don't know how she's going to react. However, that being said, assuming she reacts well and she's focused in there, I think that she's more likely to win the decision. It's just going to come down to what happens in those big moments, you know, because Barber, one thing about her, you know, the technique might not look the prettiest, but she will go after you and she will swing big. So it's just about how Miranda reacts to that. But if Miranda reacts to it well, then I think she's going to win this decision. So my pick will be Miranda Maverick to edge this one out.
There we go. Now, Big Marley, I was talking about this before. She's a finisher, right? Round 1 finish. Round 3 finish, round 3 finish, round 2, round 1, busted the knee, forgivable. Then the loss to Grasso. So Barber's a finisher, man. Miranda Maverick looked really good in her run so far, but I mean, she's also not exactly been fighting the superstars of the division. So how do you really judge these two to sort of get a lean here in terms of what can end? Who's the better grappler? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a real close fight. I think it's a pretty high-paced fight, though, so I like it on both sides because I think the winner can score well. I just think it comes down to whoever spends more time in top control, because I think if either one of these ladies get in top control, they could do a lot of damage there and rack up control time and just win rounds that way. I just don't know who that's going to be. So I like both sides of this fight. I'd rather take the underdog in that scenario if I'm unsure. So give me Barber, but this is one of my top 4 or 5 favorite fights, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. You're liking the fight a lot. And I feel the same way, even though that inside the distance prop is way lower than I would have expected kind of at first look. I like this fight a lot too. I definitely like saving the salary if I can, using Barber. Unfortunately, she's not that big of an underdog to where salary's super cheap, but she's a finisher. I got to get exposure to finishers in my lineups. Again, odds aside, both of these ladies have a path, I think, to a pretty decent scoring win. Or there's definitely a pathway here that goes down where it's just kind of striking, not a whole lot. Like I definitely could see a low scoring. This one could go either way for me. It could go low scoring. It could go shockingly high scoring. It could go anywhere in that. It's just I'm really not sure how it goes, to be quite honest. And I'm not sure which of these two women is better than the other one. Again, I know you guys say I should be able to watch and know when somebody beating up a scrub that they are also, that will translate. I can't always tell that. And when I watch somebody beat Liana Jojua, okay, how do you not beat her? And then Gillian Robertson, if you're even the slightest bit tough, you're beating Gillian Robertson. Like if you could just stop a takedown, or you have strength. And Dan, you talk about this a lot. If you have physicality as a female fighter, Gillian Robertson is not a physical fighter. She's slight. She's not muscled. That's not what she is. She's skilled, but the physicality is what takes her down. And Miranda is definitely a physical. I mean, she looks like a badass chick. I mean, this is not a woman who looks like unphysical. So, for this reason, I don't really know which way it's going to go. I think you get exposure to both sides of this fight and hope that the one that you choose for your lineups is the one that's able to execute takedowns. I don't know which one it's going to be. It's just really difficult. These two girls seem very evenly matched. If I was betting it, I would bet the underdog just because I can't tell who should be favored. And as far as for DFS purposes, I'll mix them in, but definitely not a fight I want to prioritize because I just don't have a lean on who's going to win it. All right. Next up, this is a fight. Another all-in fight. How fun is this, guys? There are a lot of fights that look very sexy for fantasy purposes this week. And this one, I mean, we got multiple minus 300 inside the distance props going on. And I'm going to take a look and see what this one is. It might not be that, but I think we can all agree this is an exciting fight from a fantasy perspective. Darrick Minner, the new and improved Darrick Minner. Okay? Not the regional scene guy that gassed out after the first round. We're talking about the new and improved Darrick Minner who fights smarter, not harder. Taking on Darren Elkins, who looks like he took a lot of damage. If you look at his photos recently, the face looks like a leather catcher's mitt from all the damage my boy has taken. Right? Minner, minus 162. Elkins, slight underdog, plus 130. This is shocking for me. BigMarley, I need the betting opinion here. Fight goes to decision plus 100? Doesn't go to decision minus 134. Now, Darrick Minner, has he ever gone to decision in his career?
Yeah, his last fight, he dominated for 3 rounds.
Well, that's the new and improved, but like that was the
first before that, it wasn't much, maybe twice or something.
I mean, this guy has like a 28 fight history of never going to decision, and yet the fight goes to decision, probably plus 100. Like the average, you know how often he goes to decision? 3% of the time. This is 50-50. That's a 47% EV on the bet. This is not a decision. What the hell's going on here? What am I missing?
Elkins has only been submitted 1 time. That's what Minner does. He's a submission guy. He's not going to go out there and knock out Elkins, most likely. Elkins taking a lot of damage, and maybe anybody could. But I would be surprised if he knocked out Elkins. I think it's a submission for him if he's going to get a finish. And the only guy that's done that is Dubronx, the champion. So that's probably why the line is like that. But I do think Minner's the better fighter early, and training under James Krause seems to have worked. I still would favor Elkins in the later half of the fight, though. I just think the ceiling is on Minner's side here. Maybe he can have a performance like he did last time, just win all 3 rounds. But I'm targeting him more so for that early submission potential. I don't see Elkins having that 100+ upside. The only time he scores 100+ is when he's landing like 7 takedowns. And I don't think he could do that to Minner. I'm not sure. I have a hard time seeing how this fight plays out, really. It'll really suck if this is a striking fight, I think, but I think it'll mainly play out on the ground, which we like for DraftKings. I'm just more so on the Minner side, and I think Elkins might be just a little bit too on for my liking, which will make me underweight on him. I don't think I could fade him. I just don't think he's going to win with a 100+ point score here. So give me Minner with to be the second person to submit Elkins.
There we go. Dan, I mean, my man has 3% goes to decision rate for his career, and that's 30 fights. More than 30 fights.
Yeah.
I feel like somebody's getting finished here, one way or another.
Most likely. I definitely think Minner is going to be winning large parts of this fight. It's just about if Elkins can get one of those comeback finishes or not. The comeback finish is live in play. But if someone's going to be dominating start to finish, I think it's going to be Minner. I mean, he goes balls to the wall the second the fight, the second the bell rings, and that is the reason he has gassed out in past fights. He rarely gets dominated. Like even in the Grant Dawson fight, man, he had a deep-ass guillotine on Grant Dawson that I feel like 8 out of 10 people would have tapped to. So, and then he tends to gas out if he can't get that early submission. But I think he showed in that Rosa fight at least a step in the right direction, because I know Rosa gets dominated a lot. So, we can't, run to the bank and say that he can win decisions now. But it was definitely a step in the right direction. He was pacing himself. He was, mixing the striking to the takedowns. He was doing all the right things, Derek Minner was. So hopefully he builds off that performance, because he's got a very winnable fight on his hands here. I mean, let's just put it like this. I made money on Nate Landwehr against Darren Elkins. So, you don't have to be the highest level fighter to go out there and beat Darren Elkins in 2021. So I'm a lean with Minner, but, you just got to be worried about Minner gassing out and getting comeback finished.
Yeah, I think we're just going to find out if this is the new and improved Minner, or if we're talking about the guy that does allow himself to get gassed out early. Because if that does happen, then Elkins comes back late against the gas fighter. He puts up a massive score on his own regard. So either way, though, this fight stinks of high scoring for fantasy purposes one way or the other, because Minner's style is just so active. And I want to pull up some of his stats. It's so active, though, that even if he doesn't finish inside the distance, he's usually going to score really, really well. Both of these guys are going to be active grapplers, and I think we'll see takedowns, guys getting back up, being taken down again, the other guy going down. So it just all kinds of points scored for FanDuel DraftKings purposes, regardless of who wins. I'm favoring Minner as well to get this win, but more importantly for me is I think that this fight is going to score great. The salaries aren't too extreme on FanDuel or DraftKings. Elkins, 7,600, Minner, 8,600 on DraftKings. And on FanDuel, they're also kind of Minner 19, where we get Elkins 12. Love that. So, I mean, specifically great play on FanDuel with Elkins coming in at $12. Really cheap, allows you to do a lot of things in your lineup. So, for that reason, I just want to load up on this fight. I think the winner's going to score really well. I'm favoring Minner to get it. But if he can't get that, if he goes back to his old ways, lets himself gas out, I think Elkins comes back strong. But Elkins is just a little too old, a little too slow at this point, I think, to compete with Minner, especially in the first round and a half, 2 rounds, unless there's some gas out. And, we'll see if he's got that corrected in his game or not. But that long history of first-round finishes, I'm going to go with the percentages there and say Minner can get it done inside the distance. All right, next up, Kyla Phillips taking on Raulian Paiva. Phillips minus 265 with Paiva, the plus 210 underdog. This fight goes to decision at minus 190. So, BigMarley, pretty high, goes to decision prop here. Kyla Phillips, a really fun fighter. Paiva, decent striker. How do you see this one going down?
Yeah, I just see Phillips being better everywhere, really. I don't see him dominating so bad that he's scoring, 100 plus points here. I don't think he scored 100 plus yet in his 3 UFC wins, and I think it would be similar to those where he just clearly wins rounds, but he's not breaking the slate, especially at 9,200 or whatever he's priced at this week. So the only issue is going to be affording him for me. I do think he's a better fighter and wins the fight, so that makes me not too interested in Paiva, but Paiva is a good fighter as well. It's just I think it's a bad matchup for him. If Paiva is able to win, I think he is going to pay off that salary. I'm just probably going to fade him here for the most part. Definitely with my hand builds, I'll fade him. I don't know if I can X him out if I'm doing 150. But then with Phillips, it's just going to be I need to have salary to spare if I'm going to get him, because I think there's fighters priced below him with higher ceilings. So that's my issue, but I think he gets a clear win here.
I feel that. Dan, you have a strong take on this one?
No, I mean, listen, I was really happy that Paiva moved up. I'm a huge fan of Paiva. I think he was a super exciting fighter at flyweight. It's just those weight cuts were brutal, man. Flyweight's one of the toughest weight classes to get to. So now he's moving up, and I kind of wanted him to, get his feet wet a little bit in the bantamweight division. But Kyla Phillips is a super tough out. I agree with Marley. I don't think it's going to be some pillar to post ass whooping. I definitely think that Paiva is going to put up a fight. I think he might even put up a tougher fight than people expect. But ultimately, I see Phillips probably edging the decision. But the reason it's tough for me is because I see a number like that on a guy like Paiva, and I know he's a dog. I know he's the kind of guy that's going to go for it. It's just, Phillips is definitely more technically sound. So let's see what happens if Paiva could possibly, make Phillips work as hard as possible and then start to take over late. But most likely a Phillips decision here.
Yeah, Phillips' decision is just not going to cut it on this kind of card in terms of the scoring. So to me, Phillips is actually going to need to get an inside the distance finish fairly early. We've seen even against Yadong here, he got a bunch of takedowns, landed some strikes, still only scored 73 points. It took an inside the distance finish for him to score 98, 91. And at 9,200, you got to be 100 plus on Fanduel or Draftkings. So I like Phillips to get this win. I think he can execute his takedowns. I think he can use his grappling. He's more well-rounded. Paiva's live, and Paiva's live. Listen, this is a guy who's tough. He's moving up in weight. He might can get a knockout. Like, you never know. He could land a shot or two, and you got to get some dog exposure to that just in case. But overall, this fight is really very fadeable for me. We talked about a bunch of fights that are super exciting from a fantasy scoring perspective. This really is fine, but it doesn't really fall on the list of ones I'm excited about, especially paying up 9,200 for Phillips. Marley, I agree with you. If that's the last spot, it kind of fit, and it's okay. I'm not really stretching myself to get there. Okay, I'll play him, but it's not a guy that I'm going to prioritize by any stretch. And I think you got to get a little Paiva exposure just in case, maybe he looks way better with a little more weight on him. Could happen. He's got good takedown defense too. I don't think he's going to spend a lot of the fight on his ass. So with that being said, really a fadeable fight for me overall. All right, co-main event. Aspen Ladd takes on Macy Chasson. Ladd is the -188 favorite, with Macy coming back at +152. But really close in the fight goes to the decision prop here at -138. BigMarley, Aspen Ladd, I love watching her fight when she can execute her game plan, get a takedown, put some nasty ground and pound on, start screaming, killer scream. They should name that. They need a name for her, like rebel, like the scream that she does when she's raining ground and pound. I'd be like, tap, I'm out. Just start screaming on there. You know what I'm talking about? Can she do that to Macy? Macy, not the greatest takedown defense, not the greatest grappler, but a very tough girl in stand-up.
I mean, yeah, that Landsberg fight makes me think Ladd can just dominate this fight on the mat with ground and pound. I think she can have success in every round with takedowns. I also think she's the better striker of the two. But Macy is going to have a big size advantage. We got Ladd coming off like almost a 2-year layoff. I think she tore her ACL, which you never know how she's going to come back from that. So I have more worries now than I did earlier in the week when I thought I was going to be betting Ladd. But still, I think everything that Chason is good at, Ladd's just a little bit better. So I'm going to go with her, and I think she wins it through the ground and scores well. But Chason is one of those underdogs that if she wins, she could break the slate. She scored over 100 points in 4 of her 5 wins. She is high-paced. She could have success on the feet. Maybe she can knock Ladd out if she's having a tough weight cut. Who knows? But this will be a fight I'm pretty heavy on. I like this fight all around, but more so on the Ladd side.
Dan, what do you say on this one? Do you think Ladd can get those takedowns and get some ground and pound going on Macy here?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it's going to come down to, because Ladd is a ground and pound artist. I mean, that's basically what her biggest strength is. And I'll say this, on the feet, it's going to actually be very sketchy, just like every Aspen Ladd fight. I mean, Aspen Ladd is definitely a liability standing. So you got to be worried about that. You know, I know that if you bet Ladd, you're going to be like, please shoot. And every stand-up exchange is going to be, you know, you're going to be looking like with a half eye, you know? So Macy is definitely going to have success on the feet. It's just that once she gets put on her back, Aspen really is a specialist in that realm, man. She's super heavy on top. She's vicious with her ground and pound. And she starts screaming, which makes the ref, for whatever reason, it makes the ref more inclined to step in quicker. So she's got that going for her as well. It makes it sound a lot worse than it actually is, even though she is throwing with vicious intent. So I'm going to go with Ladd via ground and pound stoppage. It's just that I fully acknowledge the fact that, you know, it's going to be sketchy until that point.
As all the Aspen Ladd fights have been, listen, I don't have that much to add. I think exactly the same. I think Macy's probably the better, more powerful striker on the feet. But Ladd is just an animal when she gets you on the ground, and she's gotten every opponent to the ground except for one. I kind of thought she had a legit shot against Jermaine, but she didn't. So overall, yeah, I agree with you. Give me Ladd here, but I don't mind, and I will have some Macy exposure. We've seen Ladd knocked out very quickly by Jermaine Durandamy, so we've seen it happen. Chasson, maybe she's got a little prep in her takedown defense. Maybe it's getting a little better. I don't know. But overall, no, I fully expect Ladd to win. But, you know, I'm not full fading Macy here. I think at 7,300, you know, she's a tough enough striker that if Ladd can't get her down for whatever reason, then we could see Macy actually do some work on the feet to where she might be able to sneak out a decision or even land some crazy blow. But yes, I definitely favor Aspen Ladd here. You know, I considered talking about Aspen Ladd's mom and that whole situation, but I'm going to leave it alone. I don't want to bring it up. So forget it. Let's move on. Main event, Corey Sanhagen versus Tj Dillashaw. Exciting fight. BigMarley, I know you've been a big supporter. Both of you guys have been big Corey Sanhagen guys from the start. So credit is due from the very beginning with this guy. You guys have both been major supporters of him. Tj Dillashaw coming back from the not steroid, but rather something else. PED suspension. It's been a while. PPO, right? So EPO. Yeah, the shit that Lance Armstrong was injecting, the shit that the bicyclists inject so that they have better stamina.
It's what you would refer to as horse semen.
There we go. The horse semen. Now, if you listen to Tj Dillashaw's interviews, guys, he says that was all part of this whole crazy cut to 125 he was trying to do against Cejudo. He does not acknowledge that, hey, I was taking this shit for the last 5 years, and that's why I look good against all these other fighters. He really puts it as something he did for that crazy-ass weight cut that he had to try to do to fight Cejudo at 125. So that's kind of the Tj Dillashaw excuse booklet for why he was doing that stuff. Whatever you want to make of it, you can make of it. So Sanhagen currently sitting at minus 200. Come back on Dillashaw plus 160. This is a fight doesn't go to decision, minus 300. So main event time, big time scoring fight. Sanhagen, prohibitive favorite. Marley, I'll go to you on this one to break it down for me. How do you see this fight going? We've seen that Sanhagen has if he has a weakness, it's being put on his back against elite grapplers. You know, Dillashaw, you could call him an elite grappler, I think. I think that's a fair description of Dillashaw. Do you think Dillashaw will be able to execute that style of a game plan and over 5 rounds against this guy?
Nah, I don't think he could do it over 5 rounds. I think he will have some success wrestling here, but I just see Corey getting back up to his feet, and then 35 years old for Dillashaw at 135, coming off EPO. I don't know that he can wrestle for 5 rounds. He's a good striker as well, great movement. It's just Corey Sandhagen's the new breed, and I don't think he can hang with Corey Sandhagen on the feet. If Sandhagen's taken down multiple times early in the fight, I just think that's going to hurt Dillashaw more in the long run. And Sandhagen's going to volume him up until he puts him away. So I like Sandhagen in this fight. He's going to be a core play for me. But if Dillashaw wins, he's scoring 100 plus. He's going to break the slate. So I absolutely cannot fade him. I also would even stack this fight in cash, even being confident in Sandhagen, just because we don't know what to expect from Dillashaw. I mean, maybe it's the guy that we saw at 135 before, although I don't know that Sandhagen can't beat that same guy that was there before. I think he dominates Garbrandt at this point, probably beats Cruz as well. So I like everything about Corey Sandhagen. I think him and Jan is the fight to make. I can't wait for that one. And he's going to have to knock out Dillashaw first.
Totally agree. I think one aspect of this fight, Dan, that I don't want to ignore is the fact that while TJ's biggest wins were against Garbrandt and Cruz, or he didn't even beat Cruz, from what I recall, I think Sanhagen pieces up both those guys pretty comfortably. So I don't know that he proved anything with those. Dan, how do you see this one going down? Do you think TJ comes back as he was, and do you think he can execute a wrestling heavy plan? Because to me, that's really probably his only path to victory. I have a hard time seeing Dillashaw just straight out striking the much larger, higher, more voluminous Sanhagen here.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think he comes back how he was. I think he's still on the sauce. I don't think that this is going to be like Vitor Belfort where, you know, he looked like Iron Man one fight, then he looked like the Pillsbury Doughboy the next fight. Like, I think that if you look at the pictures, TJ Dillashaw's got a shredded and a ripped 6-pack. So now he's just got a good masking agent. So he's definitely coming in shape. He's definitely coming to fight. This guy's an elite competitor. You're correct. He is an elite grappler. He's a D1 wrestler, once a D1 wrestler, always a D1 wrestler. However, the issue here is that even, you know, with the EPO, he's always had some kind of a bit of a chin issue. Not that, you know, he can't recover. He's got great recoverability. It's just that, you know, he's been dropped in fights. He's been knocked out in fights. And against a guy like Sanhagen, he's not going to let you off the hook one bit. So there's definitely the concern of the wrestling. But the last time that TJ Dillashaw landed takedowns in a fight, I mean, let's put it this way. George St. Pierre was winning UFC titles more recently than the last time that TJ Dillashaw landed takedowns in a fight. So I see Corey Sanhagen, you know, it's going to be competitive somewhat in the early going, but eventually find that kill shot and take him out. And, you know, there's one guy that's ascending towards a title shot and one guy that's, you know, about to be 36. So I think we know who's who. I'm going with Corey Sanhagen. I want to say and new, but it's not a title fight. You know, TJ never lost his belt in a fight. He got stripped. So to some, he's the uncrowned champ, just like Peter Yan's the uncrowned champ. All we know is that Aljamain's not the champ, but that's one thing we can all agree on. But yeah, I'm gonna go Corey Sanhagen to knock out TJ Dillashaw.
No one thinks Aljo is the champ, and I love Aljo. That's my guy. But
I actually totally forgot that he was officially the champion.
Yeah,
I was thinking Jan was.
I thought Peter Yan was the champ. What? So yeah, I mean, with this fight, as far as it goes, number one, Marley, you're right. This in cash games, just stack it. I don't necessarily think that it's a lock who's going to win, but more so, give me 5 rounds between these two guys, 4 rounds. Both of them are going to score really well. So it doesn't really matter who's winning at that point. You want to stack it, get the win, probably get 50 points from the loser. I don't see any way TJ Dillashaw goes up against 30% takedown defense, Corey Sandhagen, and Dillashaw doesn't get a couple takedowns outside of him just get kneed and the first attempt at a takedown and get knocked out by one of those knees that Sanhagen throws up really nicely. So outside of that, I think we know how this one's going to go. When it's striking, you're going to have more volume, you're going to have more accuracy, and better reach, size. Everything favors Sanhagen. And in the wrestling realm, things are going to favor TJ. In these situations, you've got to have pieces of the underdog, because if TJ's winning this fight, if he wins it, it's going to be a grapple heavy game plan. He'll have to execute that for a full 5 rounds. We'll see if he can do it. Sanhagen, very tough. And the taller guys, they can usually push down and get back up pretty easily. Like they just have this ability with the longer body to get back up if they're aggressive about trying to get back up when they're taken down. And on the flip side, Dillashaw doesn't have a history of wrestle fucking somebody over the course of 3 rounds. It's just not something that I've ever seen him do. He has takedowns, but it's more the Dustin Poirier style takedowns where he'll throw one in here, throw one in there, but it's not Merab Dawashvili style where he'll just execute it for multiple rounds. So I agree with you guys. I think Sanhagen is the rightful favorite. I think he's probably going to win this fight, but you got to get both sides of this. In fantasy, this is an all-in fight, 100% exposure in tournaments. I want one of these two guys in every single lineup I create. I want both of them in cash game lineups. Why take the chance? Don't even risk it. I think the loser, if it's Dillashaw, will score well in fantasy in the loss. All right, boys, that does it for the breakdown. It is time for our kill shot. Dan, I'm going to start with you. I know you love to throw out a kill shot. A kill shot is going to be maybe a low-owned play, something people won't necessarily be on that could break the slate wide open. Dan, what do you got for me?
So last week, it was Mateusz Gamrot. He went out there, submitted the dude in the first round. I thought he was going to knock him out in the first round, but I'll take the first round sub. This time, it's going to be Jordan Williams to finish Mickey Gall, man. I think that he's got too much firepower. He's too physical. The only thing I need is for him to make it to the scales safely on Friday. So I'm going to give you a backup kill shot just in case the Jordan Williams fight doesn't happen, because, they did say he can't make 70s. I think he's going to make 70s personally, but, just in case, hold on, give me 1 second. So, everyone's obviously going to be on Adrian Yanez. Everyone's going to be on Puna and Brennan Allen. So we can't go with that. So I'm gonna surprise my boy over here, and I'm gonna go with the French sniper himself, Nasserdeen to win a little sneaky upset here. But main kill shot is Jordan Williams.
Eating escargots before the fight and get that protein. No wrestling. All right, BigMarley, what do you say? Kill shot for this one.
I'm gonna go Diana Balbita right out of the gates. 85-point striking decision.
That is a fair kill shot right there. I don't think too many people will be on her. I'm going to give the Vince kill shot. Vince is a killer when it comes to kill shots. He's got Randy Costa for this one. I'm fine with it. I don't know if I want to load up 70% on Costa like Vince will generally do on his kill shots, but he gave me Randy Costa. I got to mention it. And actually, his backup was Balbita, so you're in good company there. I'm going Andre Ewell. I love the salary, and I think he's just as likely to win that fight as Arce is. I think it's just a close fight. And, at 7,100, I don't expect some crazy knockout or anything like that, but I think he can win. And if he wins, there's a great chance at that salary that he's in that perfect lineup. So I'm going Andre Ewell. I think we already know across the board what the all-in fights are on this card, guys. If you guys weren't paying attention, Costa Yanez, load up. Allen Soriano, load up. Elkins Minner, load up. Dillashaw Sanhagen, load up. Those are 4 fights that you should load the fuck up on this card. And now mix and match those fighters. Pick your winners, pick your whatever. Now you only got 2 more spots in your lineup, or if it's a FanDuel, you only got 1. These are 5 out of the 6 spots on FanDuel, 4 out of the 5 spots on FanDuel, 4 out of the 6 spots on DraftKings, where you can really load up. So this is an exciting fight to attack tournaments in, because we kind of have an idea of which fights to focus on heavy, mix up those last 2 spots, not as many variables. That's how you win a tournament and take down the 100K. All right, for myself, for Dan, for BigMarley, good luck this weekend. We're all rooting for you, Corey Sanhagen. So, beat up the snake. We all hope we want the snake to take an ass whipping here. The snake. And we'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, the video. Sign up at the FS Army if you want our our picks, the Domination Station Optimizer set up to run mass multi-entry. Listen, there's a mini max on DraftKings for $37.50. You can make 150 lineups. You can try to take it down a tournament. It's got $1,000 to first place, $37 total entry. Put in 150 entries. It is not out of reach for anybody to mass multi-enter and be in it.
$75, right? It's 50 cents.
What is it?
Minimax?
50 cents?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking of the 25-cent one on Fanduel. Yeah, Minimax $75. There you go. There's a 25-cent version of that on Fanduel. Costs $37.50. You can max these tournaments.
Actually, it might be $1.
Which one?
I don't need the mini max.
I don't get to see it on my screen. Apparently, DraftKings thinks I've played in too many contests. I'm not allowed to play in anything under.
Yeah, I feel like it's been $1
for
actually lately.
Yeah, I can't play in it under. I never see it. How much is it? Is it?
It's
$1 or
officially check. Yeah, it's $1.
Damn, we got to get
still $150.
Man. I want to see like BFP first place. D-Lab.
It's coming, man. It's coming. Don't count me out.
He's got it. All right, guys. Good luck this week, everybody. We'll see you at the top of those tournaments.
Good luck.
Later, everyone.